This video is brought to you by Sony. Learn what happens when artists meet engineers.
What's up, everybody? I'm Greg Miller, and holy crap, Batman vs. Superman finally has a Lex Luthor, Jesse Eisenberg, and an Alfred, Jeremy Irons. Nobody's really mad about Alfred. Everybody's mad about Lex Luthor, so we brought in a bunch of IGN LA stars to tell us all about it. We have Eric, Jim, Joshua, Roth, and Scott. Jim, what's up with this news? Is this good, bad? What do you think?
I like it, actually. It's offbeat. He's known, Eisenberg is known for playing guys who are intellectual, smug, think they're better than everybody. That's Lex Luthor. I don't think you need to be 55 and bald to necessarily represent that. Also, you know, he captures the idea of Lex Luthor as a guy who thinks that he could be the pinnacle of humanity. Maybe not physically, but intellectually.
Yeah, totally.
So it's going to be a nice foil to Henry Cavill.
Joshua, how do you think this shakes down? From, you know, what we've read, obviously, of New 52, the Lex Luthor they use there, especially in the early goings, it seems like that actually looks to me a lot like Eisenberg, right? Sitting there watching a monitor, deciding how to take down this alien.
Yeah, it's definitely not like we've seen the classic Lex Luthor from the comic books, but it's something that, you know, I can get behind. At first, I was shocked like everyone else, but you know, this is cool. This is good. We've seen him do it in The Social Network, almost the exact same role. So I'm down for it.
Okay, Eric, Roth, you guys do a lot of TV stuff. You did a lot of Breaking Bad stuff. A lot of people wanted Bryan Cranston for this role. Eric, why didn't he get it?
Well, you can just see that they were going for such a different interpretation. Obviously, he's like, 30 years younger or 25 years younger, Eisenberg. So it's so different. But, the main thing I'd say is everyone's talking about Bryan Cranston. If they'd cast Bryan Cranston coming out of Malcolm in the Middle, people would have freaked out. It's because they saw him in this one awesome role. So I think Eisenberg has already proven to be a really good actor. I think he could surprise people here with a very different Lex Luthor than we were expecting than the Cranston version would have been.
Sure. I mean, Roth, do you think it worked against Cranston coming off Breaking Bad? It seemed like my thing was, I didn't want him to be Lex because it was too easy. We already saw him be a bald bad guy.
Yeah, I think that actually in an odd way that would have been a little bit too similar to Walter White. Not exactly, but sort of a little bit too similar. But I also don't know that they were ever really considering that. I think with Jesse Eisenberg, it contemporizes it a little bit in the sense that he is this young entrepreneur, I assume. I don't know what direction they're going to go. Maybe he's a mad scientist. Maybe they're going to go old school, this Lex Luthor. But I think what they're probably going to do is have him be a young entrepreneur and billionaire who is very, very ambitious, very, very aggressive, and very maniacal. And I think that can be kind of interesting. I was actually a little more thrown by Jeremy Irons, not to contradict your police work. Yeah, I was a little more thrown by that because to me, Jeremy Irons has such a menacing presence that it's more so in a way than Ben Affleck, that it's like, so we have a more menacing, naturally presence than Batman in Alfred. So that's an interesting way to go, but I love Jeremy Irons, so I'm interested to see what he'll do.
Scott, how do you feel about Jeremy Irons as Alfred?
Well, I think Roth's point about him being more menacing is well taken, and actually a lot of the versions of Alfred are supposed to be sort of ex-secret agent types who can kick ass when need be. So I think this might be, for a change, a different version of Alfred on the big screen. We've always had the sort of kindly, doddering father figure Alfred, and maybe this will be an Alfred who gets to see some action and kick some ass.
Can I remind you guys that Michael Goff, when he was cast as Alfred, was a horror movie guy, and that he wasn't exactly known for playing. I think the closest he had come to playing somebody like Alfred was in Top Secret.
Yeah, he only got the job because Tim Burton was a huge Hammer horror movie fan, right? So.
It's not so much that Alfred, I think it's very cool and an interesting direction to go that Alfred would be more of that badass version, right? And I think that's interesting to see for fans because he's been this loving father figure that sort of anchored Batman, Bruce Wayne, for a while now. But he's more menacing, naturally, to me, Jeremy Irons is, than Ben Affleck is, naturally. So I don't know what they'll do in terms of their performances to nod to that, acknowledge that, or accommodate for that. But it's an interesting pairing.
Batman will have a vow to kill, while Alfred will just be shooting people left and right.
Joshua, do you see then, I mean, with this Jeremy Irons as Alfred, we're talking about him being menacing, somebody who could kick ass. Do you think you're going to see influences then of the Earth 1 comic we got not too long ago where Alfred was this secret agent? He did beat the hell out of Bruce Wayne at one point?
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought of when I saw the casting announcement. I think that'd be really good for them to mine that. That's a very modern take on Batman. It's more realistic.
Yeah.
And I honestly like the newer Alfred where he can teach Batman a thing or two. And really the butler is his secret identity because he used to be a badass.
So then, now the internet is of course aflame. You can't make any casting rumor news for this film without getting people mad. Is everybody there? You're all the experts. You're all the entertainment experts. Is everybody on board with the cast so far?
Yeah,
Sure.
I have to say, I mean, Joaquin Phoenix was reportedly the guy that they were looking at for Lex Luthor originally, and I think you would have had a similar reaction to his casting, maybe not quite as angry as the Eisenberg casting, but it clearly indicated they were looking for somebody who was not going to be either a physical powerhouse, or B, he might not even be bald in the movie. But if you look at Jesse Eisenberg, doesn't he kind of look like Michael Rosenbaum with shaggy hair?
Yeah, it's definitely, you're right, Jim. I was thinking Rosenbaum because of the age. The only thing about Jesse that I kind of was a little disappointed about was that I can't see him as President Luthor anytime soon.
Sure.
Lex has become president at times, and like Eisenberg doesn't seem like presidential material for some reason.
I saw people online today, saying that this makes sense if you think about it in terms of them saying, you can see them sitting around a room saying, if we invented Lex Luthor today, what would he be?
Mm-hmm.
And they would say, he'd be like a Mark Zuckerberg type. This brilliant, young, arrogant genius. It's almost too perfect because you can see someone going, hey, why don't we get the guy who played Zuckerberg to do this? And I almost think that probably was how it happened in a way,
Yeah, I think that's probably exactly how it happened. Another sort of interesting thing about this approach, though, is that they've made him younger, but then they're having this older Batman. I don't know. I just think it's interesting the way that they're sort of gradating the age range. Yeah. I don't know if it's like a 4-quadrant approach in the sense that they're trying to hit all sort of the whole market in the film.
Well, I think
Gal Gadot is a different sort of choice, a different age range, a different demographic.
Well, Lex Luthor has always been, at least, compared to the actors who played Superman to Lex Luthor, there's always been about a 15 to 20 year age difference there, whether it was, 25-year-old Christopher Reeve to middle-aged, Gene Hackman, or Kevin Spacey to Brandon Routh. I think Smallville maybe dialed back the clock on what we're expecting the ages of these characters to be. And also, it gives them at least 10 years if they want to sign this guy to multiple movies to,
just to milk him for everything he's worth before he withers up and dies. Get all the juice.
These are two of the more interesting casting choices, though. You know what I mean? I feel like my interest level in the movie has gone up. Of course, I love Bryan Cranston and I loved Walter White, and I would have loved to see that interpretation. But this is interesting to me. I just sort of want to see how it plays out. It's intriguing.
This is like Daniel Craig when he got cast as James Bond, like, really? And then he ended up killing it. And I think Eisenberg, I'll be more disappointed if he's not bald than,
He's got to be bald, right? He has to be bald. That's like, I understand that, like, don't get me wrong, I know there's comic book interpretations where he hasn't been. For a major motion picture, he has to be, right? Someone tell me this. He can't.
Well, don't forget, Gene Hackman he wore wigs throughout the whole first movie, right? And
yeah.
So when you're a little kid, you don't realize he's bald. So who knows?
This could be, Lex Luthor becoming Lex Luthor as we know it. Like Superman started out as, he wasn't anything really, but now he's Superman and Clark Kent at the Daily Planet. So I feel like we could get, see what makes Luthor sort of become what we know him as Luthor. He might not start out as this big supervillain. He might become that over the course of the movie.
Sure.
And, the fact that he's the same age almost as Henry Cavill really makes it sort of like a buddy-buddy thing to where there could be a split later on. And they could be against the older generation, which Ben Affleck and Jeremy Irons they represent.
Well, he's got to already be established in the universe, right? We always talk about Man of Steel, all the Easter eggs in there. There are Luthor core stuff in there.
Yeah, I think that they will say that he is this young guy who's already built this sort of empire at such a young age.
Or he inherited it.
He inherited it. They could go that route, but I almost think if they're, again, we're just guessing, but if they're going to do the Zuckerberg-like guy, that he will have, they'll say at 18 he had made his first $5 million, and they'll say that he's now already built himself in this thing. And I still think that there's a lot of room for what we've all assumed, which is he could be a face of someone wondering about Superman and the destruction he caused and saying, I'm here to kind of help you. It is weird because we did wonder about, like, Bruce Wayne and Lex Luthor both as, like, these titans of industry, and there will be such an age difference. It'll be very different sort of energies coming from the two of them.
Do you feel like it could be that they're infusing different elements, like he's this kid who grew up on the wrong side of the tracks, and so has a chip on his shoulder, and he built himself up from nothing, and he has that jealousy towards Superman also? Do you think that could be a part of it?
I think that's going to fit in more with the Bruce Wayne connection, right? You figure, for me, the way I see it is he's going to have, for Superman, it's going to be the Lex portrayal of, I'm the best of humanity, right? I probably breezed through school, graduated college. Now I have to protect humanity from this alien, which means going through crazy contracts with the Army and trying to build super weapons that somehow Wayne Tech is arguing against. And then it would seem like through that he could play against both of them, right, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, I hope that you're right, and I hope that it's more than just a villainous Lex who's just a bad guy because he wants a good real estate or something. I mean,
God, no real estate, please.
No real estate.
We don't need that real estate thing anymore.
There's plenty
The
of
idea
real
that
estate
he's
now in Metropolis, apparently. We've got a lot of neighborhoods. You can build a lot of malls there.
the idea that he has this real concrete reason to be against Superman, the fact that Superman destroyed half his city, is actually a great concept. I think it's an accidental one. I don't think that Zack Snyder and David Goyer really planned this out as much as they like to claim they did now, where they said they destroyed Metropolis at the end of the first movie so they could set this whole thing up for Batman and Lex to come in. I feel like it's more of an sort of an accidental thing that's going to work out well for them, possibly, from a story standpoint.
Yeah, I have a theory that well, this is called Batman versus Superman. So what's going to make them?
Yeah, it's
well,
not
maybe.
the official
You're right.
title.
You're right. It's tentative. But let's say that. Let's go with it. That is the title, Batman versus Superman. What's going to pit them against each other? And I think Lex Luthor is going to be the big part of that. A lot of people think that he's going to oppose Superman for destroying the city, but I think he's going to try and get Superman on his side and use that to pit him against Bruce Wayne.
Ooh. Fascinating. I like it.
It opens the door, too, now to there has to be a secondary villain, somebody who's going to be the muscle here.
Wonder Woman.
So do we think it's going to be Doomsday, Metallo, somebody like that? I mean, the rumor is that it's going to be two Superman villains. Well, now we have one. So do we think, are we looking at Lex Luthor maybe developing somebody like a Doomsday? Didn't he, in one iteration, basically throw Doomsday in a lab or something like that?
We also have to figure Wonder Woman in here somehow. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, we know for a fact that, Gal Gadot is in the movie and she's Wonder Woman, so she's going to have to play in somehow. So I don't know which team is she on? Who's drawing
there was
her
a
in?
rumor. There was a rumor going around that she was going to be posing as a Wayne Enterprise employee, which obviously harkens back to Talia al Ghul in Dark Knight Rises. But that's somehow maybe Batman already knows about the existence of these other superheroes like Wonder Woman, stuff like that. I'm thinking that there's already going to be sort of like the Avengers initiative where all the holy shit they're here thing has already been figured out. And they've already been prepared for the day when the fit would hit the shan, if you will. And it did when Superman and Zod went at it in Metropolis. So now maybe Batman is putting into effect his own sort of, game plan, and maybe Luthor has his own, and wouldn't you know it, people are going to collide.
Well, great, guys. Thank you so much for your time. Obviously, ladies and gentlemen, there is a lot of time until Batman versus Superman or Superman versus Batman or Man of Steel 2 or whatever the hell they end up calling this thing for all of the breaking news on the next Superman-Batman film. Keep it here on IGN.